So up yours, Houston.
From a 2-1 deficit. Ground ball softly to second. Keith will charge, field and flip. Tigers win, they're moving on. They pour out of the dugout and mob each other behind the pitcher.
Everybody said we weren't playoff tested. We just passed the biggest test of the year to date, but there's more coming, okay? Never know. Get it going. Hey, listen, hold on. Listen, I'm not sure who, but somebody let the Tigers get hot.
Oh my gosh. I don't think that's ever going to get old, at least not this year. Welcome in to an episode of Motor City Metrics. I'm Mike Papchak with Chris Brown and Yoop. Rogelio is on a mission to get dinner, so he'll join us in just a moment. But I have been watching you guys after each of the last couple games, and I'm bummed I haven't been able to be a part of things, but I'm here now, and I can be excited and just, oh my God, I can't believe that this is really happening, that on this Thursday we're still talking about the Tigers are still in the playoffs.
Truly amazing. Something that looked so almost impossible in June, to have this just keep getting this roller coaster, just keep getting better and better and better and more thrilling. Can't ask for more.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's one of those things where you keep kind of like pinch yourself and you go like the way they're winning, it's got to stop at some point, right? But it doesn't. They just keep doing it. It reminds me of that Royals team, a decade ago, where it was like, well, this is not going to keep working, and they just go out and they like, again, 7 pitchers in game 2, 7 pitchers. Nobody worked more than like 1 2/3 innings, right? I don't think. And yet basically they shut them down until, was it the 7th inning when things got a little wonky? But other than that, it's just remarkable and incredibly fun. One of the most enjoyable, second halves of a season I can remember. And I just, one of the things I keep going back to is like, man, like all the what ifs about what else could have happened at the trade deadline. The Tigers, if they had known they would do this, they probably wouldn't have traded Flaherty, right? But they, you'd also in your head like, maybe they, it'd been cool if they traded for a bat or whatever. But I think back to some of the other players that they could have traded that they didn't. Skubal, of course, is the first one, right? But I thought Andy Ibanez had a chance to get moved. A playoff team might like somebody who can come in and pinch hit and clear the bases with 3 minutes.
And he was still hitting at that time.
Yeah, or like Jason Foley, right? Like I thought any of those guys could get moved and they didn't, and it just the way things worked out is so unbelievable that it's just really kind of fun to sit back and watch. Like I'm not even stressed out really. Obviously, you watch these games and it's playoff baseball, so no matter what, your heart gets going if you have any kind of vested interest.
Yeah.
But it all just feels like house money right now. It's like all this is just super fun and unexpected, so I'm just enjoying it.
Right, and I don't think that should be lost. I've seen on the internet and on local radio and all this stuff, people are commenting on next year already. It's like, man, you poor fans, why don't you just live in the moment and enjoy this while it's happening? So that's definitely the direction we're going to go. And I'm sorry, I know you guys have been reveling in this already. I got to watch a little bit of the post game yesterday, but I just didn't get to be a part of things, and I'm happy I'm wrong. But like what you said, Chris, something that's made me less fearful and less expecting of this to stop is just simply the length of time that it's been going on. It's been 2 solid months of really good baseball. I think I was worried about it in like September 1st, like right around then. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a run that they need to do, but like they've been hot for a month. There's no way they can keep this going. Now I don't know when it's going to stop. That's kind of where my kind of thoughts have shifted since then.
Yeah, it would be one thing. I mean, they're coming up with timely hits and stuff like that, but it would be one thing if if it was just like, oh, they had 2 runners on base all game and they happened to get a hit with those 2 guys on. They the first game they should have and could have scored many more runs. They were putting pressure on Framber Valdez in the bullpen the entire game, and Hunter Brown shut them down. But in both games, it rarely felt like they were overmatched. I guess I should say, like, Hunter Brown, there was, they were struggling at times, but they were still battling in every at bat, and that just seems like, I don't know. I think back to that stretch from May and June when you got Ryan Kreidler in the lineup and Bly Madris and Buddy Kennedy and all those guys, and they felt like they go 5-6 games scoring 1 or 2 runs, and it just like they wouldn't even threaten. And now it's just like, they're. It feels like at any moment, it could be Jake Rogers coming up with a great at bat, or Winsel Perez. Anybody in the lineup seems like they can pull their weight when they need to. So it's that makes it easier. It's like it's not a stacked lineup, but the holes don't seem as glaring either.
Yeah, they don't have the potholes. There's no question. I think, and we don't want to dwell on the negative, but if things were to come to a grinding halt, I don't expect the offense is still going to, I think, will be, they're kind of mediocre-ish self, sometimes better, sometimes worse. I think it's really going to come down to when does the Cinderella story end for a couple of the relief pitchers. And they've been so wonderful at limiting power, as we noted the other day. Does one opponent, do they get their dogs off the chain on them, and unleash a few home runs that the Tigers just can't deal with? That's the one thing that really gets to me is how long can Brendan Hannafy do this and Sean Gunther and those guys? Because what was interesting yesterday? Houston, no batter faced a pitcher twice for the game. I'd love to know how many times that happens in postseason baseball, or any baseball really for that matter. I bet it's fairly rare. Is that something Hinch is going to keep doing? Is that the secret sauce to move forward? That would be very interesting.
Well, but the thing is what you're saying would make sense if they were going up an offensive juggernaut of a team, like a team like the Yankees that might await them in the ALCS, if that were to happen. But against the Cleveland Guardians, that's not exactly a top of the league offense. So I'm not like trying to say what you're saying isn't true.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm also trying to say that they're not exactly playing the team that I would expect that to be what ends up doing them in, right? So yeah, they've got a couple guys that can hit some. Naylor can hit some bombs. Aquan's a little hurt, but he's good. Everybody knows about Jose Ramirez, but it's just like and I've actually got a bunch of stats regarding Cleveland Guardians for a little bit later in the show, but Cleveland Guardians, they're kind of like the Tigers in that when you look at them on paper, you're like, this is the second best record in the American League. Like this team, this lineup, and I don't know. I think that, and I'm sorry. I know I've preached a lot the last time I was here about like this is magic, but really what it is just what seems to be average pieces doing really well together. But the problem is Cleveland has kind of been doing that all year too. So for me, what I'm worried about is magic is going to cancel out magic, and at the end of the day, Cleveland might just have a better lineup when that does set.
Yeah, well, we've got ourselves an old-fashioned Cinderella knife fight. You got 2 teams that shouldn't be here. But yeah, I mean, the Tigers have been the better team in the second half of the year, but it's not so, the advantage isn't so great that you'd like, the Tigers are going to run away with us. But I don't know, you have to feel pretty good about having Tarek Skubal potentially pitching twice in a 5-game series. I think, I don't know if they've set it up. I think it would be game 2 and game 5. Or if you get that first game, you got Tarek Skubal going the second game, you feel pretty good about that. Heading back home, I don't know. That feels like, I don't want to say like an equalizing factor or whatever, but it feels like when you've got the best player, that's a great place to start. Now Jose Ramirez is an amazing player, but again, there's no Juan Soto, hiding behind him to punish you if you pitch around him. not to like completely disrespect these guys you talked about. You know, that some of these guys can make you pay, and they probably will once or twice. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I tend to I thought the Astros would beat the Tigers, and I was dead wrong there. But I feel like the Tigers have a really good chance to take this series. Which, you know, who knows if maybe I'm just a curse and they'll go out and not score. But it feels like a series they can win pretty easily.
You know, it's game one is going to be huge if they can go in there and not just I hate the words when they say steal a game, but if they can just win game one and just establish that beachhead in the series of having that first win, now you really got them by the chest hairs a little bit, you know, and I'm just really interested to see how they start that game. You know, what opener they go with. Am I wrong that Jose Ramirez has a little less power from the left side?
I don't know. Let me check.
I think that to me that matters who that opener is, whether it's Brisky or Holton.
Well, let's see. We'll see this year specifically. It is a 695 slugging from the right side compared to 480 from the left side.
Okay, so you're going to want a righty.
Yeah,
you're going to want a bat and lefty. So I would think it's Brisky, right? I mean, maybe Hannafy.
Yeah, maybe it depends on what, you know. We haven't drilled down to see, you know, maybe his weakness might be sliders away or something like that. You know, it's Jose Ramirez, so the weakness isn't, you know, it's relative, right? But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind Brisky at all. He's been kind of the guy who's doing that. The other option, I mean, Job, Hannafy, Madden, Mize, yeah, any of these other guys, Olsen, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's a good point. So definitely, he hit 14 home runs this year as a right-handed batter in 164 at bats. So yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and try to limit those right-handed plate appearances for Jose.
I would think so. I would think he's going to face a lefty probably 3 out of every 4 at bats. Don't you think in this series? If Finch can manage it?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of Gunther. I mean, so you got Herter, you got Gunther, you got Skubal, obviously. Who else? Who am I missing? There's another lefty. Well,
yeah, who are you missing?
There's a fourth lefty, isn't there? Yeah. Why am I losing my mind right now?
I've certainly never known a single baseball player's name ever. Now that you're looking for it.
Tigers. We got Herter. That's Skubal. Gunther. Why am I losing? Oh, Tyler Holton. Jeez.
Holton. Jeez. Best one.
Yeah. Yeah. So he'll probably pitch a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if they might even, because of that, you wonder if they might add Brian Sammons to the mix rather than, you know, Mize or Madden or something like that.
You know, because having they have a lefty, an extra lefty to face Manzardo, because the guy has some power and Naylor.
Yeah,
you know, that's Salmon's probably not, but it's not a crazy idea at all. I would have him more than Montero.
I mean, I want Jackson Jobe opening at least one of the games. I'd love to see our premier pitching prospect starting a game I don't care if he pitches 1 inning, 2 innings. He's just an opener role. I don't care. I'd love to see that kind of guy get that kind of stage and see what he does with it. Just because I mentioned yesterday, I was dwelling in the chat a little. The only complaint I had from yesterday's game, I mean, how can you complain it's a win? But I didn't love the situation that they put Jobe out in. I feel like they decided to put him in one of like the most difficult spots they could have.
Well, I mean, he started the 7th inning, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're saying he didn't inherit any runners, but I'm surprised that they went with that. Maybe opening is kind of in a similar situation, a lot of pressure, but I'd like to see what he can do with just the first 3 guys.
Well, they had him. The one thing they did that would be different between opening and where he came in, they had him lined up against the bottom of the order.
Yeah.
And it went wrong, and that's okay. But it was the bottom of the order. If he opens, you know he's facing, you know, Kwan, who gets on base a lot, and Jose Ramirez. So, that's quite the assignment. Not that he couldn't do it. He's very talented. No reason why he couldn't get through an inning or two, but it's definitely a different assignment than what he had.
Absolutely. Like what I'm saying is purely for like the fan in me. Absolutely. Just Jackson Joe starting a playoff game.
The fan part is we're fans, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I get it. But I think from a baseball perspective, it's very arguable that he could do it, and he's as talented as anybody out there.
Just 2 months ago, you telling me Jackson Joe would be pitching in the first, second inning of a playoff game. I'd have been like, you're lying. I love the idea of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see him. I haven't looked. He's very experienced pitching against some of these Cleveland minor leaguers.
Sure,
as we talked about, the Akron, Lake County, and Columbus are all. Although I don't think he pitched against Columbus because he was only in the AAA for 2 games. But yeah, I don't know. It is interesting to kind of sit here and think how they're going to go about this. But yeah, I mean, with Ramirez, I don't know. It'll be fun to watch Hinch manage again. It's, we played Cleveland a bunch this year. The Tigers did, and I thought Vogt did a good job, but I don't remember thinking like, he's super tactical manager. But I don't know, to get that many wins out of that team, I think he's probably pretty damn good too.
I mean, people really like him for manager of the year. It seems like just because what they did, they're kind of similar to the Tigers in that way as well. But
they have the bullpen where they can make it a 6-inning game if they want. I mean, if Smith, Gaddis, and Clase do their thing, then you better be tied or ahead after 6.
Well, and that's what, and some people have brought it up. Riley isn't the only person that's been quiet, Dan. The offense, I mean, you can't really point to any one specific person. Honestly, if I had to choose an offensive MVP, I mean, outside of the obvious Andy Ibanez for the hit, but I think you'd argue that Justin Henry Malloy may have been the most positive offensive player just with the limited at-bats he had. I think he had, 3 or 4 at-bats total. He had 2 walks and a hit. It's just, you can't really point to any one guy and be like, I 100% like you showed up offensively. They got enough to get by. So it's a 5-game series now. We are going to need a couple guys to step up. This is the time for Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter and our guys to, I mean, yes, maybe it is a slightly below average offense, but AJ Hinch can only manage so much. Like, the pinch hit's kind of going to work every time. Like you said, when you have a good bullpen as good as Cleveland's, especially with their closers. So I'm really looking. I want to see some guys step up offensively.
Well, in a short series, that's kind of been, how many people can we go back over time and find guys who weren't that great, who got as hot as they ever have in their life for 4 or 5 games. It's happened a lot. Whether it's the Scott Brocious or the Brian Doyle, or, multiple guys like that. So
David Freese.
Sure. Yeah, David Freese. So if you told me right now that we'll be sitting here next Wednesday and Spencer Torkelson has hit 4 home runs, I would be surprised, but I wouldn't drop my jaw on the floor. He has the power. Maybe he's going to run into some pitches. You just don't know. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. And sometimes you just need one guy to spark it all. And I'm not saying it's going to be Torkelson. It could end up being anybody. It could be Sweeney, whatever. But we'll just have to see if the Tigers can run into that one guy who lights a fire.
Yeah, I know. It's with the small sample sizes, it's interesting looking. Ibanez
2 games,
2 for 3 with 2 doubles and 3 RBIs. That's pretty good. Like you said, Malloy 2 for 3 with a walk. Winsell only got in 1 game, but got 2 hits in that game. Parker Meadows 2 for 9, but a home run, not bad. And Jake Rogers 3 hits, and caught 2 pretty outstanding games. So he would probably be my MVP of that first the wild card if they did such a thing. But I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, you didn't get any real big hits from Riley Green, like you said. He came close to a home run, but that was about it. And Colt Keith walked 4 times, which was nice, but he didn't do much other than that. So I don't know. You just wonder if you can get 1 or 2 guys going. Get Kerry Carpenter would be the one, right? Like just
I hope so.
goes nuts and hits 5 home runs in 3 games. It seems like something he could do.
Absolutely.
I could see him hitting to that opposite field. I would love to see him clear that high fence and left center with an opposite field shot. He's done it before. He has that power. I'm envisioning that right now. That would be pretty sexy.
I like this comment from Wendy here. Yeah. Oh, you got a comment from Dan Fernandez. Wendy says, I straight up hate watching us play Cleveland. It's, you know, it's, yeah, they're a little too much like Detroit, right? It's, you want to play somebody else who you want to play the Astros who swing at everything suddenly for some reason.
Right? A team that never does that all of a sudden did that. And I know this isn't the same Cleveland team that the Tigers had some demons with for the past decade, but this series is kind of nice and looking at it that way, just exercising some demons. It's a Cleveland team no matter what, even when Tigers were by far and away best team, or when they were trying to be. It just seemed like Cleveland for the last 10 years has always just had our number. So I'd really like to turn the tables on them. This is the first time they've ever met in the playoffs.
Yep.
So that's kind of interesting, except, I mean, it makes sense. ES Central has historically not been super great. So,
yeah. Yeah. And with the expanded playoffs, it's kind of wild. Like, you know, had the Tigers never faced Houston in the playoffs before either, right?
No.
So I don't know. You know, the one thing, you know, I said earlier, like it feels like you're playing with house money, right? But I don't want people to get, you know, misconstrued there. What I'm saying is because I think one thing you can run into, and I might be talking about this later, is thinking like, oh, we're still young, you know, we got plenty of years, we're just only going to get better. Like when you get there or you have a chance to get in the playoffs, like, you know, go for it, go all out.
Yeah.
And the Tigers certainly are. I'm not saying they're not, but you know, as fans, you have every right to like, well, they're in the playoffs now. They should win it all. Go ahead and think that if you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, if be disappointed if they don't win it all, because you don't get these chances very often. But for me personally, I'm just kind of enjoying the ride while it lasts, however long it might go.
Oh, I'm going to be disappointed if they don't win it all right now. But I think that again, it's the fan of me that's come out a lot more in the last 2 weeks than has the whole season. You know, it's just, I remember playoff baseball, just working crap jobs, just always having Dan Dickerson on, always watching that, you know, and it's nostalgic in a way. And, anyway, so I kind of lost my train of thought there. So
that's okay.
I'm, reminiscing of old Tigers teams, but
you know, Wendy here is talking about a strategy, and I get that. You know, I was looking at the Cleveland lineup, and we talked about this a little bit already, but I'd like to go even deeper. When you look at that lineup, there's a lot of lefties, a lot of righties, and a couple switch hitters. Okay, so it's going to be a little harder, I think, for Hinch to chase as many great matchups. There, you know, like that was nice. As great as those guys are, it was very helpful for him to have Tucker and Alvarez back to back, you know, and be able to get a lefty in there and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You know, they may not get as much of that in this series if Vogt is doing a good job matching up with what Hinch wants to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that side of it is definitely going to be interesting to see what they do. You know, aside from, you know, a couple of the younger guys, like most of the relievers they have, I don't necessarily hate them against hitters from either side, right? Like, I don't, you know, Vest seems to be able to get out lefties without any issue. Dobrisky has that change up. He's got that fastball. He's good. You know, it's like, I guess I wouldn't want Gunther facing a bunch of like, I wouldn't want Gunther facing probably Judge.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, thinking forward, like Judge and Stanton, probably not ideal. But yeah, like the only one and even Herter, right? Like for Herter's come in, and he was a guy who got blasted by right-handed batters in the minors, and he just goes out there and he'll just roll up a double play. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you worry about the matchups might be less advantageous, but these guys have basically done it for 2 months against everybody for the most part. So I don't have to worry too much.
And Herter, by the way, was getting up to 96. Usually his average is like 92, 93 tops, and he was getting up to 96. 96 a couple times. So they're kind of like he's kind of realizing how much he can rear back and and add a little bit, and that does play up well for his sweeper too. So that's just another example of using up to your strengths. And Sean Gunther, I'm going to put him as my MVP only because he came in a very difficult situation. I don't want to say MVP, maybe unsung hero, because he really was the big. He was that big bridge to gap that win. I mean, it's just if it wasn't for him, it's just so remarkable to think that this guy, the entire time last year, was just working. I talked about this all week. He was working his way back up here. He wasn't even sure where his role was going to be, and now he came up in a situation that put him can continue to further their track in October.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I was just looking at the win probability added, and it just his wasn't the most. There was Abanya's and actually Bobrisky, which makes sense, like when you think about when he pitched. But yeah, just getting that out, that double play, and then coming back out and getting a couple more outs. I mean, you mentioned, I think yesterday, like that was the inflection point for the entire series. If the Astros go on, and they must have had the win or run probability there, it was probably like 3+ runs.
Sure.
The likelihood of getting and to get no more was huge, and then the offense just goes back to work. So yeah, that's a good call, Raj. Like, I mean, anytime you win a series like this or any kind of playoffs in any sport, you start thinking about all the people who contributed, all the good things that happened, and yeah, you kind of forget about the people who maybe didn't do so much because whatever, look at them next time.
Well, even I think there's even the one thing too that I wish MLB would kind of get right with MLB Network is some of these weird ass narratives they have with like the zoo, and then they put the faces of the tigers on the animals, and then they have some guy like they have one down to MLB Network where they have like this guy writing in Old English, and it's like really weird. Like I don't know if you guys have seen this one or not, but it's so like some of these narratives of just like, can we? I don't know. It's like, why don't you just describe it normally? I don't know what you're trying to do with like mysticism or, but the animal one was really, really, really weird. But they have one where they're writing out everything in Old English, and you know what though? Here's what I like today from PTI. Anybody who watches PTI, I'm not sure anybody watches PTI anymore, but I like what Tony Kornheiser said here.
Tony, you more focused on the improbable success of the Tigers or the end of the Astros streak of 7 straight trips to the ALCS?
All right, there's a common thread here with both teams, and it's A.J. Hinch. He manages the Tigers now. He used to manage the Astros. He was not thrown out for no reason. He knew he lost that job in Houston because he knew there was cheating going on. But this series sort of establishes him again as one of the great managers. Mike, there are people I've talked to that you know well in baseball. Richard Justice, Tim Kirchin, Buster Olney. They think this guy may be an all-time manager. And I'll give you a statistic to show you what he's working with here. These Tigers, the 26 players on the roster for these games, combined, they make $18.8 million. 26 guys. 62 players in the league individually make more than that. Yeah. 4 Astros make more than that. Altuve and Bregman and
Hader was one of them. The relief pitcher they won off of made more money than every one of them combined.
I just, you know what though, the narrative, like here's PTI is still on, then he could have just said, well, there's 12 rookies on this roster. I mean, he was, you know what I mean? Like it just sounded like really. Guys.
Yeah, but I mean, you could have a roster with 12 rookies and also like 4 superstars, right? Like it is. I think, that was his way of saying like these are absolute nobodies.
Yeah, he was saying I stopped it prematurely, but he was saying that the team was built out of tin wire, like basically nothing wire, like just a whole lot of just nothing. And he's right to a certain extent, but at the same time, I mean, we've talked about the job that AJ Hinch has done. But I don't know. It just seems everybody's so everybody's so shocked, and the only person that's not shocked is Kirk Gibson. Kirk Gibson,
That's true.
Kirk Gibson and Jim Leland both were like back in June and July. were like, this team's good. Knock it off. They were just basically declaring that. And Kirk Gibson was like, well, I work for the Tigers. Might be a little biased. But he stood by what he was saying.
Yeah.
And same thing, Leland. And Leland's not one of those type of people when you need him. Chris, you got to test this. Leland's not one of the rah guy. He's going to tell you how it is. He's not.
Yeah, it's my only job is to tell you how it is. Otherwise, I'm not going to be.
Yeah. Like, you know what? And Tyler, awesome point. The broadcasting team for the Wild Card Series was absolutely brutal. You just take an out like here. Okay, for the show research, we all do show prep. We all do some sort of prep. There is an outline to this chaos. Okay, our own chaos. Anytime we do an article, we research, we look at things. Here's the thing. This is the thing that cracks me up about this. These guys are paid full-time professionals. I'm some podcaster out of my basement, if you will, and I do more prep. Even if I was watching a series with the Brewers, I would take an hour out of my way to do basic prep. And you can't. Come on. This is your job. You have a dream job that I would kill for. You can't. Right. You know this team? Get out of here.
Yeah. Well, I think they're taking that whole, they're a bunch of nobodies. That means that they don't need to know anybody, you know?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I give them a little bit of slack here. I think, imagine yourself, okay, so you're preparing for this 3-game series, right? And you've got to, as Tim Kirkjian, you've got to talk to every player and come up with like 5 different anecdotes you can bring up during the course of the series. You got to have all those. I mean, and Michael Kay's not used to it. I enjoyed his call until he screwed up Ibanez's name, but that happens to everybody, right? Like, but
I can't say names.
1 man scores, 2 man scores, everybody scores. That's a fun way to call that. I don't know. I don't really care about announcers too much.
Yeah.
The announcers bother me more are the ones that you're stuck with all year long that you don't like.
No, the reason why I get bothered by it is just because here's the lack of preparation. I know you have 4 or 5 narratives, but you can literally go, it's interesting. The Tigers signed Cole Keith before the beginning of the season. He never played before, sight unseen, or not sight unseen, but there's certain things you can do with that. You can easily, the narrative, it doesn't take that long. To me, it doesn't. I mean, even if I wasn't a Tiger blogger, whatever you want, whatever our titles are, again, an hour worth of prep. That's it. That's why when we do our segments, the good, bad, and the ugly, the inside numbers, and we go outside of the Tigers, I'm glad we go outside of the Tigers because it forces us to pay attention a little bit. And
numbers outside the Tigers.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't. It's hard. We've Raj and I have both been fortunate enough to be in the booth with professional broadcasters at times, trying to do color commentary, and Raj did a better job than I did. But it's like you get up there and you're like, what do I say? What should I talk here? And then mostly I just try to stay quiet and wait for them to ask me a question, which is not ideal. But I don't know. I have some sympathy for national broadcasters, although if you want to pay me to do it, I'll do it for half, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
I think I saw they're going to have Francoeur for this series.
Yeah. Who is TBS's Dirks?
Yeah.
He's like, you want that kind of, dumb Southern accent guy on your broadcast.
No,
not to say that Andy Dirks is dumb, but you kind of play that role, right? You play like the
goofy.
I'm just a goofy dumb guy. I don't know my IQ, but that's what Francoeur do. Although I think it might be real with Francoeur.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat.
One thing that we were talking about the construction of this team when you said they put together with tinfoil and stuff, pipe cleaners. It did make me think, no teams you can ever compare them like exactly the construction alike. But and we talked before. I think you mentioned the Packers from last year, right? With just the youngest team in football, and they didn't know any better. It just kind of went on and kept winning. And actually, I thought it may have been Cody and Kieran who mentioned this, but there's an element of like the going to work Pistons with this team.
Yeah.
Now in retrospect. Like, no, that was a great team. It was an all-time great team. But, they were put together. There were a bunch of cast-offs and nobodies, really, right? Like, Ben Wallace was just, we'll get whatever we can get for Grant Hill. And, Tayshaun Prince was like a middle first-round pick. Chauncey Billups was the first-rounder who didn't work out. I know Trey Sweeney is a first-rounder who didn't work out with 2 teams, right? Now he's playing meaningful games for the Tigers. Like there's a little bit of that. It's not quite. There's a lot of homegrown going on with this team, but yeah, I mean, the nature of teams isn't decided, I think, until later when you write the history of them. And who knows? If they keep doing this, we'll go back and go, yeah, that was one of the great Tigers teams of all time. That they had $18 million worth of salary, but I don't know. We'll find out down the road. But it's kind of fun to be in the moment right now.
I'll be right back, gentlemen. But I was going to say we should go into
go
inside the numbers here in a second. So, Mike, go ahead and hold that. I'll be right back.
Let's start this. All right. Oh, Chris, why don't you start us off?
All right. My inside the number is 140. And that is the number of runs allowed by Cleveland this year in innings 7 through 9, which is the best in the majors by far. The next closest is St. Louis at 172. They are 32 runs clear of the next team. That's the same gap between St. Louis, the second team, and the 13th team, the Cubs. And the Tigers are fine. They're at 189, which is 7th, but that's a 3.59 ERA compared to Cleveland's 2.48 over the final 3 innings. Now, in innings 1 through 3 and 4 through 6, Cleveland is really middle of the pack, 14th and 15th, with an ERA of 3.89 and 4.40. So, kind of just putting some numbers there to what we already knew, right? You got to get to this Cleveland team before the end of the game. You don't want to mess with that bullpen, and it's doable. Unfortunately, it feels like the Tigers don't really do that often. Now, they did at the second inning against Framber Valdez, so maybe they can get to these Cleveland starters early. But it feels like if they're going to do some damage, it's going to be innings 3 or like 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good.
They might end up having some more very Tigersy wins. Score in one run, score all the runs in one inning, and then hang on for dear life the rest of the way.
Right. Yeah, I actually have a bunch of stuff about that in our other segment that I've got to bring up. But
whoops.
I guess I'll go next with my by the numbers. Mine is 2, and that is the number of RBI that Andy Ibanez had in the previous 25 games and appearances that he had leading up to that game, which just kind of illustrates how it makes Hinch to look like even more of a genius to use him at that spot, and just the unlikeliness of it all. And it's nothing like the Maglia home run, but it just, in the same way, it's just like so unexpected and so it's iconic in a way. If they end up going a lot farther than we think and goes into the World Series, I think there might be some iconicness to that double. But I just think it's interesting that, and I think he hit 161 in the second half, Andy Ibanez. So he has basically been a non-factor for a long time, even during this run. So that was great to see him actually step up. Like everybody in the chat's been saying, they've been doing it as a team. Everybody, a different person stepping up every day. And they're right, and that's just like a perfect example of it. But my bonus is 100-0. This is the first time a team with 100 games or more of postseason experience has ever lost to a team. The Houston Astros had 103 games played in the last 10 years of postseason baseball. Tigers had 0. Mm-hmm. This is the first time any situation that matchups have been that way where the team with the 0 or close to 0 ever won the series. So that's fun. Yes. Really obscure, but that's really interesting.
Nice.
What do you got, you?
Okay, for me, I was traveling. As some may notice, I have a different background here today. I am in Holland, Michigan, visiting where my family were visiting some friends over here and doing hopefully a lot of traveling around this week, Traverse City and so on. So I didn't get a chance to look up a lot. So I'll admit I stole this straight from MLB Network. I thought it was pretty good because it kind of talked a little bit about some things we covered about the Tiger bullpen limiting power and that being such a big key. This year, the two numbers I have are 824 and 683. No, excuse me, 663. Those are the numbers of Will Vest, 824, and Bo Brisky, 633. Fastballs thrown this year without allowing a home run. They're two of the three best in with no home runs and the most fastballs thrown. So that shows how their fastballs are really playing up and being very dominant right now. 824 fastballs by Vest without a homer. That's kind of scary.
Yeah. It's remarkable that the number of, like, I think about the at-bats against Victor Caratini in particular, where something about his fastball, the hitters are just like, well, no, that's low. And then it just keeps, like,
Levels
he just
off.
gave up on a ton of those fastballs, and they're just, oh, nope, called strike, you're out. So yeah, it's really impressive. It's fun.
I was surprised Brisky was on the list too, because he has a few homers, but I guess those have all been off-speed stuff.
His slider is no good.
Yeah,
it's never been good. It always bums me out when he gets beat on it, because that's like by far his third best pitch. But I guess you have to throw it occasionally. But yeah, no, that's fun. I don't know if Raj has an inside the number that he's going to pop in with, or maybe we can.
Looks like he's not even showing up in the waiting room here. So,
well, I'll tell you. Go back to Mike. What you're saying about Hinch and Ibanez. It really. Yes, his second half numbers were poor. And I think he was 7 for 42 in September, or 6 for 42, whatever it was. It wasn't good, obviously.
It was under 200, yeah.
But in a lot of respects, that's a small sample. And it's also very sporadic at bats, often 1 or 2 sometimes a game, sometimes go 3 days without playing. That was happening a little bit. I really think it showed a lot of patience by Hinch and knowing that, hey, yeah, this production is slowed, but it's not in a heavy sample. That the guy who was hitting in May and June was still in there somewhere. And that it's best off to chase the better matchup, the right-left matchup, and use him and just trust that something good would happen. And they were rewarded.
Yeah. Well, and I just think we talked about it. Just keep doing what you've been doing all year long. Like I don't know why I thought anything else would happen. But he's just like, no, we're facing a lefty. Kerry Carpenter hit the bench. Justin Henry Malloy, you're in the starting lineup. And it's like, all right, well,
it worked out.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how much more we need to, like, eventually it's probably not going to work out and people are going to complain about it. But it's like, man, they got here doing this. Like, it's, I don't know how much more we could complain.
That's inevitable, right? Because we mentioned it after. We didn't say that on the show yesterday, Mike. But after the show, we just had a quick chat, and I said, if Andy Ibanez strikes out in that at bat, and the Tigers go on to lose that game, all we hear about is Vierling's throw. Jake Rogers couldn't field the one hopper, and why the hell they bring in Jackson Jobe? I mean, that's all.
Yeah,
and all the good work of the day before would have been tossed out the window. So that's the one thing about the playoffs in baseball. You are always on the razor's edge, right? That can go any way at any time. Everything, after the 8th inning, everything fell the Tigers' way yesterday, and it erased all those ugly narratives that could have easily brewed up.
Yeah, no, I mean that's just the way it goes. That's the fun about writing the stories. Is anything that was bad just gone. Oh, maybe Rasheed Wallace does cover Robert Orr and he doesn't hit the 3, and there you go. Not to go back to those going to work Pistons, but yeah, I don't know. It's remarkable. Everything about the team. Andy Ibanez coming through in that situation. Torkelson and Keith taking walks. You're like, I don't know. It's just at a certain, after it happened, you're like, well, that was inevitable. Yeah. But yeah, at the time, you're like, I don't know what's going on. So, oh wow, the Mets. Pete Alonso. Now the Brewers just hit 2 home runs in the 7th to go up 2-0, and Pete Alonso just hit a 3-run homer to tie it in the 9th inning. Off Devin Williams. Off Devin Williams.
3-2 or 3-3.
They're up 3-2 now.
Yeah.
Walk, strikeout, single, 1 out, 3-run homer.
Wow.
Off Devin Williams. Holy cow.
On the verge of every road team winning the wild card division again.
Off the airbender.
It was the airbender. I was going to ask. Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
Wow,
man, I feel for I don't. Raj predicted that the Brewers, they get to the playoffs, they never pull it off. I thought they were gonna, but sometimes, star power. Although Alonso's kind of homegrown, but yeah, maybe go get him if you can in the offseason.
Yeah. Well, I hope Jackson Churio gets in that bat in the ninth.
I was going to put him in one of my categories, but you did just the other day, didn't you, Hoop? So I didn't want to double up on that. But he's doing Miguel Cabrera, Andrew Jones stuff right now, like the things that don't happen with 20-year-olds in the playoffs. Now, sometimes the 20-year-olds just aren't in the playoffs, but really special young player.
And also Jackson Merrill's 21. He was doing some pretty nice stuff too.
No, the league's in. There's a lot of exciting young players there.
Well, and again, this is boring to bring up your own fan. Both of them on my keeper league team, by the way.
Oh, very good.
All right. Well, with that, maybe it's time to jump into the next segment here. Why don't we get to the good, the bad, and the ugly? All right. Why don't you start us off, you?
Well, my good, we don't know if it's good. It could be bad. We don't know. But I think chaos, it's been good for the Tigers pitching staff. I think chaos is also hopefully going to be good for Major League Baseball television. There's some.
Were the games on TVU? Were they? Because I work 9 to 5, man. I didn't realize they were on. My bad. Whoa, that's crazy. Sorry, you can continue.
That's okay.
I'm not over it.
With Bally, with things blowing up, and they only want to return with one team, and a lot of chaos going on. I'm hopeful that again, the more things start to get shaken up around baseball, it gives them opportunities to fix some of the problems that they've had with their distribution and with their blackout rules and everything else. I want to be confident in saying that change will happen for the benefit of more people. Obviously, we all know it comes down to the money the owners can make, but I would love to see if Illich did something aggressive here. And, we have to find out more about the whole situation. But it's been, to me, why Detroit wouldn't start their own network has always mystified me. I mean, he has the ability to do it. I would go for it. Bad, the big thing there, we touched on it briefly earlier. So many people discussing about next year already. Yeah, stop it. It's done. It's not done yet. This is something to cherish. Next year's team, we don't know. If you told me next year's team is going to win 78 games, I wouldn't really kill somebody for that. You could probably make that argument in a bunch of different ways. This team has accomplished something unbelievably unique. And I don't care if they sign Alec Bregman next year. Okay? I'll worry about that in January. That's a good January topic for us, or winter meetings in December. That's fantastic. But just enjoy this. That's my only message. And I know others have said it too. I'm not, reinventing the wheel here, but this has been great. Worry about that next year. My ugly, I got nothing. I'm in too good a mood about baseball right now. And again, I was traveling a lot. I didn't get, all the prep work Raj said we supposedly do. I do, but didn't today. So, so I'm just going to pass the torch here.
All right.
Well, why don't you go ahead then, Chris? I just wanted to say actually really quick. Letting people figure things out. You need to enjoy this while it's going on. Look at the 2 World Series teams last year. Rangers were not even close to the playoffs. The Diamondbacks had to wait out to the last day, and they didn't make it. And they weren't in control of their own fate. So just more evidence to please enjoy. All right, go ahead, Chris.
Have fun. Everybody, every second, enjoy it, even if it sucks and your heart is exploding. So I'm actually, my good is kind of, I'm circling back to something I mentioned kind of in the midway point of the season, and it's about the elite hitters, elite position players. I keep thinking that 2024 season deserves a book of its own, because you've seen some of, like, Aaron Judge has had one of the top 10 offensive seasons of all time. like we don't talk about it because he's a Yankee and whatever. Otani doing things nobody ever thought possible. The Tigers going on an epic run that nobody thought possible. Just a lot of different storylines. I feel like you could have 5 different topics, 6 different topics, and kind of do it chapter by chapter and go through the season, and it would be a really compelling read.
Sure.
But yeah, the elite position players this year, it's just kind of amazing given that what we've seen the overall lack of offense. But there are 5 different hitters this year who put up at least 8 WAR to Baseball Reference. So it's Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt Jr., Gunnar Henderson, Shohei Ohtani, and Jarren Duran, which that's tied for the 4th most ever in any one season. The only seasons with more, there were 7 in 2001, whatever, and 6 apiece in 1961 and 1912.
Wow.
And beyond that, there were 4 hitters this year: Henderson, Judge, Ohtani, and Witt, who put up 9 WAR. That's tied for the most ever in a season with 2004, 1927. And 1912. So there have been few years in baseball where we've seen this much elite talent at the same time, and it's just kind of remarkable to me. It's easy to forget that Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt are like 23 and 24 and putting up these kind of like Mike Trout seasons at shortstop. It's remarkable. So that's my good. And then here we have some fun. My bad, the Houston Astros. I mean, their run is certainly not over. They still have a bunch of pretty good young pitching. They've got Alvarez, they've got Tucker, but that Bregman's going to be gone, Verlander's gone, Graveman's gone. That's they're getting like $60 million off the books. But Dana Brown, their GM, he said there was a quote there from the Houston Chronicle. I think we're going to have to make some wise decisions as to, are there younger players that we can call up and put in certain roles to maybe save some money here and there, allocate that money to other players. We have to get a little bit creative. So it doesn't feel like the Astros are going to be playing in the big free agency pool. And, the strange thing about them is they've got an awful lot of money tied up in the bullpen. Even with Graveman gone, you've got Hader signed for like another 4 years. We mentioned $19 million. That's the second most for any reliever in baseball behind Edwin Diaz. And Ryan Presley's at $14 million.
Wow.
Tied to the 4th most for a reliever. And the Tigers beat those guys. The relievers, we've seen it. They can fall off a cliff very quickly, and that's a lot of money invested in guys who might not be good for that much longer. You never know, right? But I don't know. I think things may get bad for the Astros here soon. They like I said, Spencer Arrighetti's fun. Hunter Brown's a good young pitcher. Valdez, Javier, all those guys are relatively young, but yeah, things might get bad. And along those lines, my ugly is the Baltimore Orioles. Congratulations on your 1 run. And I saw somebody. There was a tweet that said, "Yeah, we want to congratulate the Orioles on their playoff run." No, literally, their run that they scored in the playoffs. They 2 games, 11 hits, 1 run against the Kansas City Royals. This great all-time homegrown offense. Well, there you go. And how about those untouchable prospects you had? Kobe Mayo, what'd he do? He wasn't on the roster. What about Jackson Holliday? Was on the roster, didn't play. No, again, the Orioles feel relatively young, and they should consider, that they're going to be competitive for the next few years. But you're also almost certainly losing Corbin Burns and Anthony Santander. Kowser's great, Rutschman's great, Henderson's amazing. It just like we keep saying, like you got to take advantage of these opportunities when you get them, because you just never know. And they had that chance to add a bunch of pieces at the deadline, and they got a bunch of scraps. Honestly, you go get Trevor Rogers, and he's back in the minors. It was just a really bad trade deadline for a team that should have really gone all in
and had the pieces to do it.
Yes, absolutely. And instead they, kind of pussyfoot around it. And here you are, you're home first week of October. Tough break, Baltimore.
It's interesting, the competing narratives and what success and failure will do, because, Detroit, they're saying, oh, we're built on young guys. They just don't care. They don't know what they're doing. They're too young to be nervous. And then with Baltimore, it's like, oh man, they need some veteran leadership. You know, if they don't get that veteran, they just aren't going to go places with that young team. But that's what winning and losing will do. It creates their own stories.
Oh, Baltimore. Oh, Baltimore.
Or Baltimore, yeah. That
And,
was Chris's ugly.
and apparently the Brewers or the Mets added on an insurance run. It's 4-2 heading into the bottom of the ninth.
Ooh, there you go.
Well, that's brutal.
Well,
That's pretty.
The road team's going to win all 4. Okay? That's amazing.
it's what? It becomes 10 or 11 of the last 12.
Yeah.
All have been the road team. The only home team that won was the Mets, I think, right? The Mets are like one of the only. They've been involved in all of the non-sweeps, I believe.
Yeah. They've mostly been sweeped. Yeah. So, and the Mariners beat the Blue Jays. Padres beat the Mets 2-1. Cleveland beat the Rays. Yeah. Look at all these Wildcats. Sorry.
Crazy. But I'm gonna get to mine with my good, bad, and the ugly. I went with I wanted to preview the series, right? Preview the Guardian series. So I was just trying to do a bunch of research, and I'm not afraid of Cleveland at all in this series, and this research just kind of helped cement it. So I looked up offensive stats since August 1st, and this is according to Fangraphs. There's not a single thing that the Guardians did better than the Tigers, except for their isolated power. The Tigers led WRC plus 15th to 18th, 99 to 96, both under average. The Tigers were 12th in WAR at 7.5, Guardians 14th, 6.7. Tigers average 241, that's 13th. Guardians 26, 232. I'm not going to go through everything, but I have so many stats here just to prove that for all of the gripes we have about our offense, and I know I kind of led the show off, like I really hope that some guy steps up offensively. Guardians are in the exact same boat. They're slightly worse than us in virtually every single offensive category since August 1st. So while they may have the pieces and the power, like I said, the isolated power is the only thing I found offensively. The good part of this is simply that what I see is our weakness out of the three, like fielding, pitching, and hitting. Hitting would be the weakness, I think, out of the three. And it seems like Cleveland's just a touch worse than us in all of those. So, like, I looked at it as a really good thing, comparatively. The only thing I could find out, even when I was looking at pitching stats, Guardians strike out guys a lot more than the Tigers do. Maybe not a lot more, 8.74 per 9, while Tigers are at 7.9. And the Tigers rate Fangraphs rates the Tigers as a slightly better defensive team overall. In their defensive rating metric, they give the Tigers a 17 overall, which I think was 7th, and the Guardians are 16.8 at 8th. So these teams are so close to each other in so many different things, but it's weird to me. I did not expect the Tigers to be the ones on top in virtually every statistical category since August 1st. It's insane. My bad is just simply something that I brought up a little earlier. I'm worried about Magic canceling Magic. Neither of the teams have the statistical makeup of the spot that they're in right now. And basically what I mean by that is I don't want to like rehash this a billion times. We all know that this is a bunch of rookies being that are hot on the Tigers and just putting this together like it's magic, yada, yada. But Cleveland is maybe not magic to that extent, but again, we brought it up earlier. They are pieced together. There's nothing about the lineup, nothing about anything in the Guardians that they do overwhelmingly better, except for maybe innings 6 through 9, like we talked about. But this is one of those situations where it's like maybe the Tigers are going to run into their own magic, and it's going to cancel it out. And then ultimately, my ugly builds into they have place. They have the Guardians have a closer who in 74 appearances, 74.1 innings pitched, he's given up 5 earned runs in 74 appearances. 10 runs overall, 5 earned runs. He has 66 strikeouts and 10 walks. He's given up 39 hits in 74 innings. He's the definition of and Chris, you alluded to this too. He's the definition of that magic killer. The Tigers, you might not be able to wait till the 8th and 9th inning for this magic to come out anymore, because that's exactly what this team is built to fight against. So while I'm not necessarily worried about the Guardians, just based on everything that I've said, that Mets just took it. Every road team just won the wild card series. But I'm worried about the way that they've been playing. They're playing with fire. This is just, I think that there is a formula in there for kind of the perfect storm for the Tigers to kind of be snuffed out of this. I don't think ultimately that will happen, but I see the scenario, and that's everything that I got. I've been going into my good, bad, and the ugly without a goal in mind lately, guys. I've just been looking up stuff, and this is what I came up with. They haven't played. The Tigers also have not played against Clay since 8-1. So literally since, I think it was earlier than that. I think it was 7:31 was the last time they saw him. So all this being said, they haven't faced each other since the Tigers have been on this hot streak, because all of these stats that I looked up were since August 1st. So maybe this is a case of just a completely new situation for the Tigers offense, the Tigers roster in general, and where Cleveland is as a team. But that's what worries me.
All right. I mean, the Padres. By the way, the Padres are at home.
That's true.
Oh yeah, right. Oh goodness, I'm an idiot. You're right, Deadly Ninja Beast. What I'm saying is just when you're talking about a team that has the team that's not winning with overwhelming offensive firepower, it's a lot harder to keep it going when all of a sudden the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings aren't as opportunistic as they might have been against other teams. That's all I'm trying to say.
I don't know if fans, everybody seems to know Emmanuel Class A. I don't know if everybody knows Cade Smith, who might be better. He's a rookie, and he's absolutely filthy. His fastball is unhittable. He throws it 70% of the time. He's got an unhittable splitter that he throws 20% of the time, and then he'll throw a sweeper just for fun, because why not? I was just looking. You can look at on StatCast at run values, by pitches. His four-seam fastball is the most valuable pitch in baseball this year.
Oof. Run
Run value of 28, plus 28. That's 4 more than Chris Sale's slider, 5 more than Class A's cutter. Just for comparison's sake, Tarek Skubal is 8th at 19 runs. So his fastball is just dominant. The Tigers don't hit velocity. They don't hit fastballs terribly well. Who knows, if you see a guy multiple times in 3-4 days, you might get to him. But yeah, I don't want to mess with that 8-9 inning. You get your runs early and then hold on.
And Hunter Gaddis, you'd probably take him over Bo Brisky if you're picking sides in a schoolyard. So that's a pretty good third wheel.
As far as Cade Smith goes, it's one of those things where Cleveland, it's another development win for them. I mean, this is a guy who they were able to, I believe they drafted him out of Hawaii, and then he just kind of worked his way up a little bit. He was also on the Team Canada too, so he's got some national. He's out of British Columbia, which is that's the place with relievers, but it's just another guy. They seem to do this all the time. It seem like they find somebody and are able to just 103 strikeouts and 75 innings pitched. I am with Chris on that.
He's an undrafted free agent, I believe.
According to this, he was drafted 16th round by the Twins in 2017.
Yeah, but I think he went to college probably after that, and then like a Jason Foley story, right?
Yeah.
That didn't get drafted and then just signed, and now he's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
So, by the way, it's funny that the Brewers, since August 1st, their bullpen WAR was 4.0. 4.0 since August 1st, and now you're heading home.
Well, yeah, and like I just said, they got to see Devin Williams yesterday, and it wasn't all the same hitters, but a couple of them got to see him today too. And sometimes that's the thing, when we force in these elite relievers to pitch back to back, you never know. So, we'll see what happens.
So my good this week it's all, of course, the playoff edition, is that I went 4-0. All my picks were correct.
Nice.
No, I don't humble brag or anything, but I picked everybody correctly. So yeah, I'll do that. And bonus, I mean, actual good. 2 is the good. Jackson Churio is gonna have a fun career. The guy's gonna be fun to watch. Watching him play in this postseason, that's gonna be a treat. So, I mean, we saw him. What's up, Chris?
Well, it's over now, but
Yeah,
it was a treat.
yeah, it was a treat to watch him play. My bad is Houston being Joe Espino being outmanaged by AJ Hinch. Correct me if I'm wrong. Joe was on his staff, correct?
Yeah, I think he was one of AJ's bench coaches. Maybe, maybe he was. I don't know. I have to look into that. But
yeah, you think there would be a little more second guy, like more matching up with what Hinch was doing, and there wasn't. So I don't know. Thank you, Bob, for the $6.99. By the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Josue Espada.
Canadian too. So hey, that's our first Canadian donation. So that's awesome.
Oh.
That's pretty awesome.
Those are some Yuletide greetings.
Some loonies.
I'm sure he's never heard that before.
That's 1 loony and 3 toonies, right?
Jeez.
Yeah, he's been their bench coach since 2017. It says. Yeah.
So I thought it'd be a little more strategic matchup there. So I don't know. I don't know. I expect a little more ingenuity there, but didn't happen. So
I'll be darned. His first ever Espada's first ever win was Ronel Blanco's no hitter. He's the first manager ever to have a no hitter for his first win.
Nice.
Who do you give the game ball to there? Yeah, well, I mean, he apparently he and Hinch were both drafted by the A's, was it?
Yeah,
the same year. Like, so that's like, it's one of those like Leland Lamont things where he's just, hanging around with his buddy for a long time. But yeah, there was some, there was a little bit of a master and apprentice there for sure.
And my ugly is the Atlanta Braves. And the reason why I say the ugly is the Braves is because for a fact that the Braves are going to probably make some wholesale changes. I just the amount of injuries they had and everything. Acuna's injury was, again, was he running back to second base or something? And then his knee.
I don't know. His knees seem to be made out of paper clips, unfortunately. Man.
Yeah.
2 ACLs. That's scary for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it's bad luck. I understand that. But, I mean, the reason why it's so ugly is because this is a team that was just in the World Series. And you mentioned this, Chris. You're absolutely correct. Live for the moment. You never know when that's going to come back. It's not a foregone conclusion that, this is the beginning of the Tigers' run of consecutive playoff berths and World Series. You never know when you get back. I mean, here's another thing too. Like the Braves won 13 straight division titles
in the 90s and
early one World Series.
Yeah,
they beat Cleveland for it, and that was it. There were some of those Cleveland, some of those Atlanta teams. I mean, outside the rotation too, of the Hall of Fame rotation of Maddox, Glavine. I'll put Avery in there, Smoltz, Ken Merker at one point too. Like offensively speaking, Dave Justice, Fred McGriff, Ron Gant. You had
Terry Pendleton, Mark Limke.
Yeah, Mark Limke. Yeah, and then you go even but just David Justice. There's a lot of these guys, like they had some really, really good offensive power. Like
Andrew Jones,
Javi Lopez.
Yeah. Chipper Jones and the Braves win 3-1. Like I always chip in my Chip Carey impression there. Yeah. But it just seems like the Tim Kirchin segment. It just seems like that's the kind of team, like the Braves. I expect a little like this is a whimper, and I don't know, just an ugly postseason.
Rod, you're right. I mean, I go back to 15-year-old me in 1984. If you would have told me the Tigers are not going to win another World Series with that core, I didn't appreciate things as much when you're 15, but I would have said you're nuts.
Yeah, I mean, and Uper, look at the 87. Like, here's another example I can give you, Uper. The 87 team. That team, on paper, was better than Minnesota Twins. But you go to the Metrodome, you have the issues with the white. Like, the Tigers had issues in that stadium. The Tigers looked really, really lost. in that series. And Minnesota was the hot team, and they rolled that to a World Series.
Yep.
That was a team that like you look at the Tigers. The Tigers, I think, were the oldest team, and I think the Twins were one of the youngest teams in the American League there at that time. You had Gary Gaetti, you had Frank Viola. That was a team that really just was not the same as the Tigers. And we were with that core, they couldn't get it done.
The Tigers had Darrell Evans collecting Social Security on that team. That brought the whole average age. He was
playing third. He was playing third again, wasn't he? I mean, he had no business playing third. He didn't play third since he was the Giants in the 70s.
He was fossilized to that.
He was fossilized at that point. He was playing. He was primarily DH and first base, and because Sparky once again traded every single third base option he had, they were forcing him to use third base because him and Brookins because he couldn't settle on third baseman because he traded him to New York for Walt Terrell, Howard Johnson. I mean, anyway.
Well, you know, one thing I want to point out, there are a lot of people that say that Twins team was the worst team to ever win the World Series. Just by going by Fangraphs WAR, I'm looking. They had 15.4 offensive WAR and 11.5 pitching WAR, so basically 26, 27 wins. The Tigers this year, 19.2 offensive WAR, 17 pitching WAR, so like 10 wins better than that 1987 Twins team.
Damn,
they could do it. Why not? Why couldn't they do it?
Yeah. I mean, that 87 Twins team had a harder time against the Cardinals than they had against the Tigers. They whooped the Tigers' ass in that series. That was not even close. That was something that was my first time in disappointment of
turn the fans off.
Pardon me?
The fans, the blowing the air.
Yeah, blowing the air.
Oh, the air, the AC and the Metrodome. Yeah.
I hate the Metrodome. I hate it. I never liked the Metrodome, not once. I mean, I went to their new field this year. I went to Target Field. That's a nice field.
It is.
Yeah. It's a very nice field. Metrodome could.
I lived in Minneapolis from '97 to 2007, so I watched a lot of games of the Tigers in that Metrodome. It was a horrible place to watch a ball game. God. You're sitting inside on a beautiful July day, and you're in that dump. It was just depressing.
Yeah, because even Skydome or wherever the Air Rogers Center, that place has seen it. As a place has seen better days. Like it has aged a certain way, but I'd rather go see a game there than I would the Metrodome. The Metrodome to me just looked like it. Just I don't know.
There's the infamous. Boy, this is going back, and I don't remember what year it was, but it was probably 2006, 2007, where Jeremy Bonderman had one of his typical first inning meltdowns. Or no, actually, this was eighth inning. Yeah, we talked. I think we've talked about this in the show before, but
I was there.
He had it was such a Twins Metrodome inning, and as he came off the mound, you could see him mouth, "I effing hate this place."
Yeah,
we could find it. I'm sure we could find the clip somewhere, but it was just brutal.
Guillen made an error. Chris Shelton made an error. Bonderman had retired 22 in a row. They had a 3-1 lead. It was just disgusting. Then Bonderman balked, and there was a Nick Punto chopper for a hit. It was just brutal.
I hated Nick Punto. Could not stand Nick Punto. It was one of those guys who just always annoyed me. Him and like Brad Radke. All these guys are like just anyway.
Here we go. Yep, July 30th, 2006. Tigers were up 3-0, 6 runs in the 8th inning.
Oh, I was there. Damn it, I was there. And here's the thing. They were up 3-0. They had Johan Santana on the ropes all effing day. They should have had 7-8 runs.
And that was one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Uper. That was Johan Santana who the Tigers finally figured out after a while, right? Because they never were able. Yeah, because they never did well against Santana ever.
Santana's one of the great pitchers of the last 2-3 decades, and
you almost forget that though, right? I mean,
it was kind of it was a very high peak, but kind of a short-lived run. I want to say 7-8 years tops. Yeah. But I've seen people compare his stats overall to Sandy Koufax's, and they compare favorably just for that run. But
that same year, the Tigers came back to the Metrodome, and Zach Miner beat Johan Santana, which was shocking. So you just never know with baseball.
Yeah. So Tigers got to go out there and exercise all these Twins demons against Cleveland.
So, I mean, do you guys want to, before we wrap things up, do you guys want to pick the series? I mean, ultimately, how you guys feeling? What do we got? Who wants to lead off?
I'll go first. I mentioned it earlier. It's gonna sound like I'm hedging, but I will settle on one thing here. I think game one is always important, but I think it's really important with Scooble lined up in game two. I think if the Tigers win game one, they're going to sweep this thing in 3 games and be done with it. I think if Cleveland wins game one, then we're in for probably a 5-game series. I still think the Tigers can win that because they'll get a second Scooble start in there, and he's the best pitcher on either team. So I'm going to be real aggressive. I went Tigers in 2 for the first round. I'm going to say Tigers in 3.
Wow.
Ooh. What do you got, Chris?
I've got Tigers in 4. Tigers in 4. I think they win one of these first 2 games, and then they take them both at home. I think the crowd's going to be absolutely nuts at Comerica. Yeah, and I think Scooble. My guess is they win the Scooble game, and then they ride that and win the next 2. I just for as much as we talked about the Cleveland's bullpen and their offense not being terribly being solid, their starting pitching doesn't do a ton for me. Like there's some talent there for sure, but I think the Tigers can get to them. They have before for most of these guys.
Breaking news, by the way. Speaking of Cleveland,
Uh-oh.
my brother just sent me a text. Apparently, the Reds are going to be hiring Terry Francona on Friday
To manage?
Wow.
to manage. Apparently,
Wow.
they're hiring Terry Francona. They said Cincinnati is expected to make an arrangement or to make an announcement on Friday. So it could be who knows, but it's just kind of like imagine kind of a dick move, isn't it? I mean, you're basically Cleveland's been ragging on Cincinnati. They were doing a whole Kentucky, Cincinnati and Kentucky thing on Twitter all month in September, and then he's going to come back with. You can't fix the Reds with Terry Francona. The Reds. There's so many problems with the Reds.
Well, they were kind of another less impressive version of the Braves this year, where it seemed like all their players got injured, right? Like they were without McClain and Encarnacion Strand and then not Ketel Marte, who was very good. Noelvi Marte got suspended, and who is Nick Lodolo is always injured. But yeah, that's kind of wild. I mean, I thought Francona retired basically for health reasons.
Health reasons, yeah.
Yeah. Is this an Urban Meyer health reasons?
Fun times in Cleveland again. Still Cleveland.
Well, is Tony La Russa going to be a third base coach?
I mean,
No, Terry Francona, maybe he's just like after a year was bored. I mean, like retirement's boring. My dad hated retirement. Everybody ever know that hated like that got in retirement that was forced in retirement hated retirement. So maybe
my dad was forced to retire. I have never, man. I don't know if my dad listens, and I'm sorry, pops, but man, has his ass just completely unclenched since he retired. It's been a wonderful transformation, man. He's needed it. Oh, he's so relaxed now. It's wonderful.
Yeah, he's not tightly wound. My dad was tightly wound, but then when he stopped smoking. Yeah. Anyway,
I mean,
go ahead, Chris. What?
I mean, I was looking. Francona's 65, which is old, but not ancient for an MLB manager. Bruce Bochy's 4 years older than him, but yeah, like I don't know. It's interesting to see him go out there and do that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's kind of fun for Cincinnati fans, sure.
Yeah.
I think here's the thing. I think the Tigers are going to win the series in 5 games. I think 5 games only because I feel like here's the thing. They'll win the series in 4 games if Torkelson or one of the other right-handed bats or just another bat can really get it going. I really think so because I think they'll catch Cleveland off guard. If they can win, they can split in Cleveland, either game 1 or game 2. I think they can win game 1, punch them in the mouth, and then come back in game 2.
I mean,
so go ahead, Chris.
Is 2 going to be Scooble versus Boyd? I know it's Bybee in game 1, right?
Bybee game 1, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Matthew Boyd to shut down the Tigers' offense, but I don't know. You'd got to feel fairly good there.
Yeah, although it would
There's
be
a home run lurking there.
Yeah, that would be ironic. That would be very ironic and very Tiger brand if they get shut out by Matthew Boyd. But I think there's something about this team that we've talked about that they just continue on. They're playing. Cleveland hasn't played since last Saturday. They haven't played a game in a week, and that does something to a team. If they're going to take them, that's what I'm saying. Like if they come out and surprise them game one, they're totally capable of that. I think the Tigers are able to just, and then game two comes Monday. Maybe they try to get one on Scooble, but if they avoid the Cleveland bullpen by just getting to the starters, then you take the bullpen equation out of it altogether.
That's the formula for winning.
Yeah, I also think 5. I just think Scooble pitching in a game 5 potentially would be an awesome way to end it. And
and the game 5 would be on my birthday, and that would be that'd be stressful. I was like, I don't know about that, but
this is it's pretty bad that we've got the Tigers winning in 5. 2 of us, one of us has 4, one of us has 3. That I don't like this. I don't.
No, you know what? I mean, look, it'd just be sacrilegious for me to say anything Ohio base is good. Sorry, some people out there. No, I mean, I'm sticking to my guns with this. I can't root for Cleveland, or not root for Cleveland. I can't pick Cleveland. I mean, there's a lot of things about Cleveland that you can like. The bullpen, Jose Ramirez, beer. There's a lot of cool things about, they have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, although it should be technically in Detroit, because the only reason why Cleveland has a Hall of Fame, because some guy, Alan Freed, said, term the coin the phrase rock and roll.
Rock and roll, yeah.
That was it. And then he got in trouble for payola and then committed suicide, I think.
Here's the thing, right? If you find a Cleveland podcast like ours, they can very easily construct a good case why Cleveland can win in 3 games. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. That would not be very hard. And I would expect they are doing it right now. And that's totally fine. This is playoff baseball. As I said earlier, it's on the razor's edge all the time. If one team gets out and gets on a run, you're toast. So, but the Tigers just have a formula that's working, and no reason why they just can't keep chugging along.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would be shocked, would be bummed if Cleveland went out there and swept the Tigers. It's like, they were handling them pretty well earlier in the year. These are as we said, these are 2 very similar teams in a lot of ways, and it's going to come down to execution, as it were.
And by the way, Locked On Guardians, good friends of ours, friends of the show. We've had him on the podcast. Although I was trying to get an episode with Justin. Hopefully we get maybe tomorrow or something along the lines. Record an episode with Justin and talk about the crossover again, because going on the minor league side of things, Erie faced Akron. So there's some familiarity. Lake County won the championship. It was a big rivalry, West Michigan. So there's some familiarity with these 2 teams. And so, all jokes aside about Cleveland, Cleveland, not everything, somebody called me an asshole, but look, all jokes aside, it's going to be a very good series. I think it's going to be a much more of an interesting series than the Royals and Yankees, only because I feel that the Royals and Yankees going to come with all this, national media attention because of Bobby Witt Jr., rightfully so, and he should get more attention. But then the Judge, Soto, the Yankees, that's just, the Yankees, that's all it's going to be. But I think this is going to be a lot more entertaining of a series, because I think you're going to have a lot of 1-run games, a lot of really good defensive games. And a lot of these games that might, to some people, might be boring. But if there's a game that's like 6-5, that'd be kind of exciting. You know what I mean? Like, there's just going to be a lot of back and forth. And
here's the thing. One thing we didn't talk about, the fun of the postseason matchup. We talked about how dangerous Jose Ramirez is from the right side.
Mm-hmm.
Tigers' best pitcher, Tarek Skubal from the left side.
Yeah.
How's that for a strength on strength?
Yeah.
That's pretty damn cool. That's gonna be fun to watch, and could really be decisive in that game. That one matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm bummed we have to wait another day. It would be fun to just get this going.
Is there any baseball tomorrow or no?
No. Doesn't start till Saturday.
Why would you want baseball on a Friday? Stupid baseball. Sorry.
Not only that, we have to wait an extra day for game 2. Like, what the hell is that? I got to go a day and then nothing on Sunday.
Well, I mean, why?
Lions this weekend? Like, damn it, man.
Well, I think just because they knew they were going up against the juggernaut that is NFL on Sunday. The MLB is kind of.
I get it from a money standpoint, but like, God damn it, the Lions are on bye, man. Like, what else am I gonna do?
Yeah, but no one. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true.
I'm talking about me, just me.
I'll say this. I mean, we get the National League Series should be incredibly fun.
Yes.
And you get those games on Sunday. If you want to sit back and be a passive observer of the Dodgers and Padres and Phillies and Mets, oh man.
So
Padres are winning the whole thing. So.
I think the Padres are. Dude, the Padres are going to be.
Padres Tigers.
Oh no! You know what?
The roar in 24.
Would that be 40 years later? Oh.
I want to. You know what? Look, if the Tigers get to the World Series, I mean, I like the fact that they took on the Giants because it was a team they'd never faced before. So if anything, well, anyways, we'll get to that when we cross that bridge. We'll get to it. But I do to Detroit Degenerate earlier. We were talking about this media calling them lucky and they don't belong here and all that. It's just again bad preparation on their part. Again,
they've been doing this for months. Like if they went like 12-0 in their last 12 games to get in, that's one thing. But a sustained success over 45, 50 games, it's not luck at that point.
No, I agree with you. But the thing is, but Pat, this is where, and Chris and Uper, we've talked about this before. This is where sometimes I think baseball suffers from being a quote unquote regional game. I think that would be kind of where the national could do a better job with this. But Mets and Tigers, Frank BJ won. Mets and Tigers would be World Series would be cool. Yeah, you know what? I actually wouldn't mind that either. I mean, the Tigers or Phillies too would be nice.
The Tigers versus anybody in the World Series would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Ohtani? Cool.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Tigers and Dodgers. Even the ironic thing about the Tigers and Dodgers in the World Series too. That'd be another ironic thing.
What,
Trey Sweeney hitting the game-winning hit off of Jack Flaherty. That was the
amazing,
case. Yeah, I don't know what Stephen A. Smith thinks. I don't really. I don't know about you guys. I don't really watch a lot of ESPN. I don't watch the national stuff.
I forget that Stephen A. exists until someone else brings him up.
Yeah, or same thing with like the Herd. Or I used to listen to a lot of Jim Rome, but I don't care about that stuff anymore. Yeah. But we're out of time. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you want to donate, there's our PayPal link in there. Who starts game 3 and 4? Walter, pitching chaos. It's just going to be pitching chaos. That's all it's going to be. I wish I had a better answer, but it's going to be pitching chaos because I think there's just going to maybe it could be Brisky. It could be Holton. Probably just loud noise.
Yeah,
on Stephen A. Smith. That's funny.
It'd be funny.
I think it's funnier if that's who they're planning on starting game 3 is loud noises. That's how I take it.
It'd be wild if you get Jason Foley as an opener.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's like, well, he hasn't done it, so I don't think they'd do it, but it'd just be kind of funny. Like, well, here you go.
I wonder if
That's
like
fun.
AJ Hinch waits, like he has his lineup card, right? So he has his lineup card sitting there, like, and they have to turn it in by like a certain time. It's like 2:00. It's like 1:58, and he just suddenly goes, crosses it off, puts a pitcher's name on there, and then as he's turning around, wait, it's like, hold on, wait. Let's do it one more time.
We know that tinker in fantasy, man. Does it ever work out for the tinker? I don't know about that, man.
Sometimes. Raj came in and resurrected a terrible team this year and ended up, making the playoffs. He, didn't go well in that final round of the playoffs, but the last week of the fantasy playoffs is garbage. A bunch of players sitting. But yeah, you tinker and you replace, and there you go. You find something that works and you stick with it. And that's what the Tigers have done for, damn near 3 months now, right?
Pitching chaos. So for the rest of the playoffs, by the way, so Saturday, I will more likely not be on. There'll be a post-game show, but I will not be here. So one of these guys will be doing a post-game show. But Monday, definitely we'll be having the Tiger Minor League Report crossover with Brandon Day on there. But in terms of like who they're gonna start and what have you, but stay tuned for that. But like I said, Saturday, every game of the postseason, there's going to be a post-game show. So even if we're down at Comerica, if Chris and I are going to be down at Comerica on Wednesday, you better bet your sweet ass we're going to be doing a post-game show. Whether it's from the press box, whatever the case is, we thank you for everybody who tuned in the last week or so. Some of their best numbers, and if there's one thing that this week has done, towards the end of the season, I get burned out from this, between that and work and everything else. And this is, of course, a long season, but suddenly I'm just like, screw it. Like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Let's go. Let's go.
Enjoy it.
Let's go in. And it's revived a lot of energy. Shout out to, I want to say again, this is a really cool thing for Mr. Kloss. Has been checking in with us quite a bit here. And again, if John was here, John would have been. I know John was talking about this team in the postseason too. That's a weird thing. Like I know he was talking about it, and now it's just so. John knew before everybody else did. So, shout out to John Kloss for life. Or John Kloss, just say Kloss with that. But Detroit General, one more question. I know MLB wants Hinch to submit a starting pitcher earlier than he has because it has given the other team the prep. I wouldn't surprise me with that, Detroit Degenerate. They like in terms of I know that Rob Manfred wants to do that 6 minimum inning where the starting pitcher has to pitch 6 innings.
Oof.
So that kind of fuckery would not surprise me. Pardon my language, but it wouldn't surprise me. It's just MLB is so like we're MLB. We're gonna just make these arbitrary rules because you guys will get an advantage.
I can't see baseball getting that through the union, right?
The union.
The union. I mean, there's some things that baseball apparently can do just kind of unilaterally, but I would think the union would not look kindly upon that because first of all, you're probably putting more starters at risk and probably taking away jobs from a bunch of relievers. So I don't know, but I don't know. Baseball's dumb. We'll see what happens.
Screw ingenuity.
More
Anyway.
bunts.
Yeah.
With that, I think we've been trying to end the show for like 12 minutes now. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah.
We'll see you the post-game show of Game 1.
Post game goes to Saturday. Have a good night, everybody. And
Enjoy.
stay classy.
Stay classy.